Hey everyone, welcome to the Gilbert.K Show. From Disney cruise stages to Cannes Spotlight, actor, coach, and feminist storyteller Jinny Wong brings her captivating journey of stagecraft, motherhood, and festival triumphs to the show, where inspiration meets cinematic storytelling. Let's give a big welcome to the one and only Jinny Wong.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm having a great time. It's Toronto. I'm in Toronto, and the weather the last couple of days has been really lovely.
That's great. And pleasure to have you on. Let's start with the first segment, origins and inspirations. You began your professional acting career performing on stage for the Disneyland cruise across Florida and Mediterranean. And what drew you to the world of acting, and how did those early experiences shape your approach to storytelling?
I'm not really sure exactly the moment, but I remember as a child just always playing make-believe and always sort of trying to recreate what I saw on TV. And I remember when I was around 10 years old, I was walking through the mall and I was stopped by a talent scout. I don't think they really do that anymore. I think it's sort of frowned upon, but that's what they were doing back in the day, back in the 90s. They would approach people in the malls and say, hey, we're a talent scout. You have a really great look. And I got super excited. My mom took me to this office, and I grew up in Mississauga, and she drove me all the way downtown, like right, on Yonge Street. And we went and interviewed, and it was one of those situations where they wanted lots of money to sign me up for, photos and classes and all this stuff. And, the little 10-year-old me was just jumping for joy, and I was so super excited about it. But, my mom knew better. And, it didn't seem very realistic at the time. And it probably, in retrospect, was probably a scam. But I think that's sort of when I was lit up by it. By the possibility that this could happen for me. And I grew up in an artistic family, but it was more visual arts. So my mom was artistic. My grandfather, he was a Chinese calligraphy.
Yeah. Calligraphy.
He did Chinese calligraphy, and some of his works were actually displayed in museums.
Wow.
My mom was artistic, and actually all three of my siblings, they went to, we went to a dramatic arts, we went to an arts high school called Cawthra Park, which had a regional arts program.
Yeah.
And so it was all the arts. There was dance, drama, and visual arts, and all three of my siblings went for visual arts. And I remember in the 8th grade, my mom was like, if you're going to go to Cawthra, you better get your portfolio ready. And I was like, I'm going to do a monologue. And she's like, what? I don't know what that is. And yeah, from there, I auditioned. It was a audition process. I had to have a monologue ready. I'm not even really sure how I came up with this monologue, like how I found it. But I auditioned, and luckily I got in, and, I made lifelong friends, and that's where I was introduced to the world of theater and just the excitement of being on stage and performing live. And, on stage, there are no cuts. If you mess up a line, if something happens, you keep going, and that's part of the excitement. So from there, I actually, when I graduated high school, it was pretty much discouraged, I would say, becoming a professional actor. Not so much that that I wasn't talented or, people didn't believe in me, but it really just, even now, just the notion that you're a full-time professional actor, I think to a lot of people, it's impossible. So I went to university for a regular, social sciences. I kept telling everybody I was going to be an actress/lawyer. As it turns out, I just wanted to be an actress that played a lawyer. So So yeah, I graduated with really no direction. I did not go to law school. I was just trying to pay off student loans and trying to find ways to make a big chunk of money so that I could pay it all off.
Yeah.
And along the way of working 9 to 5, like just office work, I was able to stumble upon an open call for Disney Cruise Line. And I didn't really know what it was going to be like, but something inside me just told me to go and show up. And I'd never done this before. I didn't know what to expect. I showed up, and it's this huge cattle call downtown Toronto, right? So I took the day off work. I went downtown, and there was dance call, a move call, a singing call, and you just sign up and you just wait in a big long line. And somehow, some way, they saw something in me, and a few weeks later, they called me and offered me a role on the Disney
Wow.
Cruise Line, where I'd have to go away. I believe the initial contract was for 6 months at sea.
Wow.
And again, it was sort of discouraged. My family was not all that supportive of it. I mean, it's
Right.
kind of scary, right? You don't know if it's going to be a scam, if it's whatever, but it was just a magical, for a lack of a better word, it really was a magical experience for me. And I learned so much, and that love for theater was reignited over and over again. I did that for 3 contracts. After the third one, the third one was amazing. I almost said no because I didn't want to go back. That was not the plan.
Yeah.
But they were like, but we're going transatlantic, and we're going to be spending the summer in Italy, France, and Spain.
Nice.
And I was self-represented. I was able to negotiate like a stateroom for myself. So I said yes, and I went away. None of my contracts were ever normal. Usually the contracts are 6 months at sea. You do 2 months of rehearsal in Toronto.
Okay.
And they set you up in either a hotel suite or, in a beautiful rental suite right downtown, walking distance from rehearsal hall. So that alone was just like a fantastic experience. But you get on the ship, and it's supposed to be 6 months. The first contract, I think it was like a particularly rough hurricane season, something happened, and they asked us to stay on board for an extra 2 months, which is the maximum amount that you're allowed to stay on a cruise ship. Then the second contract, I think it was 7.5 months. And then the third, my final contract on the cruise line, it ended up being 7 months. But yeah, I mean, it was a wonderful experience, but when you're gone for half the year, it's really hard to get a life started at home.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And, that wasn't what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. And I kind of had to make the decision. And because it seemed as if, I wasn't able to say no, I just told them not to ask me back. And that's how I was able to sort of like end my,
Get out of it.
just to get out of that lifestyle. But yeah, I have really fond memories, and I'm still friends with some of the people I met on the cruise ship. So it was really lovely.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. So after taking time off, you start your family, you transition to TV and film. How did becoming a mother influence your perspective on acting and the types of roles you pursued?
Well, it was definitely different. So when I came back from the cruise ship, I did try to audition. I tried to break into the TV film. I tried to do commercials. I did workshops. And I think that this is very true for a lot of actors that are transitioning from the theater world to TV and film. Mm-hmm. There is a lot to figure out. There's these nuances, right? Like, you think acting is acting, but it really is different. And what I was faced with a lot of the times was just do less, right? Because when you're theater, You've got
Yeah.
hit the back of the room, right? And you've got this big stage, and there's maybe a spotlight, but there's no camera telling you this is what you need to look at. So if I
Yeah.
want that attention, if the attention is supposed to be on me, I've got to make it so. But understanding how a camera works is that, the edits, the cuts, like that's going to show you, right? If I want somebody to
Right.
notice what I'm typing on my phone, I don't have to say, haha, here's my phone. The camera is just going to show an insert of it.
Yeah.
Figuring that out took a really long time. And even classes, especially when I was starting out, really, even acting classes, even if they were specific to TV,
Hmm.
they were for leads. There were 10-page scripts that you were learning. But what I was auditioning for were commercials. There were like barely any commercial audition workshops.
Yeah.
And, it was hard to figure out. It was really hard to navigate. I ended up getting a job as a flight attendant, which I thought was going to leave me a lot of time to audition, but it did not.
Yeah.
And so, I kind of just stopped for a while. What I ended up booking was a lot of, actually sort of modeling things, because they wanted the big expressions captured in still
Prince.
form. And
Yeah,
that I was able to do. That sort of transitioned well, but
Yeah.
me on like TV film, it was always too big.
Yeah.
So, but then, you do less, and you actually feel like at some point, I'm like, so like, you just want me to talk like this? Like, don't we? Right? And then it's like, oh, everything is flat, right? Like, it's a
Yeah.
really fine line that you kind of have to trial and error. And that's one of the good
Wow.
things I think that came out of self-tapes, because at least now when you can watch your tapes back
Yeah.
and be like,
Learn
oh,
from it.
you know what? I see how that
Yeah.
was too big, because like I moved my arms and you can't even see my arms anymore, right? I get it. I have to keep small.
Yeah.
Whereas before, when you were doing the live auditions, like you don't know what you put out. You just
Yeah,
see
yeah,
them
yeah.
say, thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you. That was enough. That was great. And you're like, was it great? Was it? I don't know. But after I became a mother, and I think there was this different factors, right? So for one thing, I'm a BIPOC person. And I think for a very long time, especially in TV film, there wasn't a big spot for us. We were usually pegged as sidekicks, maybe sort of like the brunt of a joke. There wasn't a big part for us, or me being Asian and a female, it was like you were this exotic sort of sex symbol kind of thing. And I never quite fit into that when I was in my 20s. And so when I came back as a mother, I feel like that really helped me, because now I was in this different category.
Yeah.
And one of the first jobs that I booked on Cutie Pugs, they really wanted, like the production really wanted diversity. They were really pushing for it. But even then it was always mixed, right?
Yeah.
So the little girl, they wanted someone mixed race so that one of us could still be white and the other person, right? That's how they were slowly bringing in,
embracing it.
embracing diversity. And then I think what really helped me was actually COVID. And during this whole period, they were really pushing for, I think, Asian actors to be featured in during that time frame. And I had a lot of success. Like I would say 2021 and 2022 were really great years for me. And that really gave me the footing in the industry to resign from my full-time job as a flight attendant. And, I really settled into this role of playing these mom roles, these caring, nurse roles, right? Like I think it just read more authentic to me, because that was my life. So I definitely think that that being a mother influenced me in a very positive way in
Yeah.
my acting career.
Yeah. I met a lady, she had the same kind of, she was always playing the mother, the mother, the mother. And she plays, she's a martial artist. And they were surprised that she can do some jumps and kicks and all that stuff. And then they asked her, "Can you do this?" And she did some kicks, and they were like floored. And they signed her up. So now she gets like more martial art stuff,
Yeah.
martial artist stuff, like, fighting, and then mother, and because she was always stereotyped and put in a box. And now she's producing her own shows, and she wants to produce more because she can decide what she wants, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I mean, I think as artists we're figuring out more and more
Yeah.
as we go along, is like, if you want to do the things that you really want to do,
Yeah.
you're probably going to have to make it on your own. And you
That's
see it
true.
with big stars as well, right? I mean, I
Yeah.
always give the
Yeah.
example of Brad Pitt. I mean, he was always the lead, right? I mean, romantic, hot guy lead, and he always played that role. But now later on in life, where he gets to pick and choose and he's producing his own work, now all of a sudden he's like this action star, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So you can really see where
Mhm.
people's passions lie when they
Yeah.
have the ability to start making their own work.
Yeah. Even like Nicole Kidman and Reese Witherspoon, I
Reese
think they,
Witherspoon, yes.
yeah, they started their own production company because they were stuck in the same thing, like mother and stuff. Yeah, and they have amazing shows to
Yeah,
produce.
like very one-dimensional characters, especially
Yeah.
for a lot of females, right? Like, you're a mom, but you're not
Yeah.
that complicated. You're just the nice, caring mom, right? You know, and it's like, mothers aren't
Yeah,
complicated. We're human beings, just like
that's
any other
true.
human being. We are complicated and conflicted.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's great to see that evolution, and the more people see this type of work, the more inspiration they get to, like, to
That's true.
build their own
Yeah.
repertoire of work.
Yeah. Especially now technology is cheaper and stuff you can do big things with the
Yeah,
smaller budgets. Yeah.
yeah, and you
So
have proof that these movies are making money, right?
yeah.
Because it was for a very long time where they were just like, oh, female lead movies, nobody really wants to
Nobody's gonna
watch
watch it.
that,
Yeah,
right? And then
yeah.
you see these people that are making it, and it's like,
Yeah.
no, here's your proof. People want to watch
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
That's true. That's true. So, as a Canadian actor of Asian descent, how do you see your heritage influencing your work, and what stories are you most passionate about telling?
Um, you know, for me, I was born and raised in Canada. And so for a long time, I actually really struggled with that because, in the beginning, a lot of the times when I would audition for stuff, they would want me to put on an accent. They'd be like, okay, great. Like, can you do an accent? And I'm like, um, sure. Like a Southern
Yeah,
accent? Like, that's always my
yeah.
go-to, is to do like a Southern accent for some reason. I think it was
You throw them
from
off.
Forrest
Yeah,
Gump. Yeah, I think
yeah,
it was an influence from Forrest Gump. And they're like, no, 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 like some, like, Mandarin, or, like a general Chinese accent.
yeah,
Um, and I was like, I still struggle with that,
yeah,
because I, I guess I feel pressure to represent it in a non-stereotypical way, but because I didn't grow up speaking, I mean, I did
yeah.
grow up speaking Cantonese for a while, and I went to Chinese school, but, with most languages, if you don't use it, you lose it.
That's true.
And
Yeah,
so, I still know how to speak Cantonese, but I don't speak English with an accent, right? And
yeah,
I feel like a lot of the times that hinders me sometimes with production, because they're like, oh,
yeah.
well, and, I've always struggled with that, because I'm like, I mean, do
I
I
don't know how to do
not
it. Yeah,
look Chinese enough? Do I, yeah, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
and so I struggled with that for a little bit. what I aim for as an artist is to book roles that aren't written specific really to any ethnicity, but certainly not necessarily East Asian or Chinese.
Yeah.
And actually a recent role that I booked on a movie of the week, my name was Sherelle Anderson. And it was a big joke because everybody was sort of surprised when I came on set and they're like, "You're playing Sherelle Anderson?" And one of my castmates was like, "For sure, I thought you were going to be black." And I was like, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's a great step forward that, you know, I don't have to just book roles that are written specifically for someone
Yeah.
who looks like me, you know, and it's not necessarily tied in. Although
Yeah.
when, you know, I do get excited when it does get super specific and they do want it to be Chinese. So for instance, streams flow from a river. They really
Yeah.
wanted, and lucky for me, Cantonese speaker, because again, that's also more of a rarity because
Yeah.
Mandarin is a lot more widely, I don't know what the word is, widely used language, right? It's
Yeah.
Mandarin. Everybody speaks Mandarin usually.
Yeah.
But the cast happened to speak Cantonese, and I was really lucky how that all worked out. And because the production, you know, Christopher Yip, he was the director, writer of some of the episodes, along with some other lovely writers like Leonard Chan. They didn't care that I didn't have an accent, and that Jane, and lucky for me, Jane, who plays the present day me. I played the flashback version of her. She's the lead, and she didn't have an accent. But we both spoke Cantonese, so it kind of just worked out that way. But both Simon, who played the present day husband of us, and Raymond, they both had accents. So everything's just sort of lined up, and it was a really great production. And how it told the story of this Chinese family growing up in Alberta, in like rural Alberta, and just sort of the struggles that we had, and some of the, maybe some of the stereotypical things of, religion. This family grew up like Jehovah's Witness, which you don't necessarily suspect. And there's actually a really large Christian following amongst the Chinese people. And it, actually my dad's side of the family, they're all Christian. So I grew up raised part Christian, part Buddhist. But I think stereotypically everybody just assumes everybody's Buddhist.
Yeah. I know. Great.
Did I answer your question? I don't know.
You did, yes. Of course you did. Yeah. You did. Okay, so let's take a break now. We're going to play a game. It's called This or That. And it's a rapid fire game. And it's in this game, you'll need to choose one or two options as quickly as possible. Okay. And are you ready, Jinny?
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay, let's do that. So stage performance or on-screen roles?
That's a tough one. I haven't done theater in a really long time, but I would really love to. I think the experience is more exhilarating just because it's live, right? Like with TV and film, you can always cut and redo it. So yeah, I guess stage.
Okay, drama or comedy?
Ooh, comedy. I love a good laugh.
Early mornings or late nights on set?
Oh, that I guess early mornings.
Okay. Improv or scripted scenes?
Oh. You know what? I'm going to go with improv. I love improv.
coaching actors or being coached?
Oh, I think I'm a performer at heart, so I think I'd rather be the performer being coached.
Rehearsal or live performance?
Live performance.
Classic films or modern cinema?
Modern cinema.
Leading roles or ensemble cast?
Ooh. You know what? I've always loved being a part of an ensemble. I think it's just so much fun for everybody to work together and the dynamics. Yeah,
Yeah.
ensemble.
Action scenes or emotional dialogue?
Wow, these are tough. I guess action scenes.
Okay, great. So let's move on to the next segment. It's career highlights and philosophies. As an acting coach, what common challenges do aspiring actors face, and how do you guide them to overcome these hurdles?
I think a big part of a big obstacle for whether you're new or seasoned as an actor is the amount of no's that you get.
Yeah.
It's part of the industry. It's very humbling because it's non-linear, right?
Mhm.
There's no, like at any other job, you pretty much, you start at the bottom, you do a good job, and you work your way up. And eventually you're at the top, and unless something terrible happens, you rarely ever go back to the bottom. Acting
Yeah.
is not like that. You could start, I have students who their very first role that they booked was a series regular. I mean, really, when I booked Cutie Pugs, I was unrepresented. I was non-union. I booked, and I was a series regular. That was my first thing. And you don't even realize how lucky you are
Yeah.
when you're in that moment and you're doing the work. You think like, great, this is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Until afterwards, and you're auditioning and auditioning and auditioning, and you're like, now I can't even book, like a one-liner. Like what's happening? You know, it's very humbling, and you think I should be, the shoulds come in, I should be further along. I should be booking other series regulars. I should be making more money. I should be working more often. And that's the hardest thing that you got to get over. This industry is going to take a lot of mindset work.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why I created, like on my Instagram page, I do daily affirmations, and it's specific for actors because we go through a different sort of struggle
Yeah.
where, the product, right, is us.
That's
It's
true.
not like we're selling, like a course or a book or something where it's like, oh, you know what, maybe the book didn't, it's just not resonating. It's like, no, I'm not resonating.
Yeah.
My work as an actor is not resonating with this role, and it's hard not to take it personal, but
That's
really
true.
it isn't personal. And I think the longer you're in it, like when you're a little bit more seasoned and you can kind of reflect on some of the roles that you've booked and some of the roles where you haven't, and you
Mhm.
see who did book, and you can kind
Yeah.
of take a step back and objectively be like, okay, they decided to change, right? Sometimes
Yeah.
they've decided to cast it as a male, right? Like in my case, right? That's happened a few
Yeah.
times. Or they've gone with a different ethnicity, or they were grouping together a family, and they decided to go a different way because of the family dynamic.
That's true.
There's so many different factors that play into it. So I think my advice for newcomers is that you only lose when you quit, because
Yeah.
you don't know that next audition might be the booking that you
Big.
need. The
Yeah.
very next thing could be what, puts your career on this upward trajectory. You don't know that. So
That's
if
true.
it's something that you love, and I hope that it is, because you can't do it for the money and you can't do it for the fame, because you'll fizzle out, because
Yeah.
it's not great money in the beginning. I mean, you might hit off, like you might get a few great gigs here and there, but you have to learn how to make that stretch. Um,
Yeah.
you really have to figure all that stuff out. So you've got to work on your mindset at,
Mm.
at the same time as your craft, and you also have to work on making connections. Like you're a business, and you have to do all of those things, and
Mhm.
support your fellow actors, because you can't, if you start comparing yourself with other actors and, oh my God, they booked, or
Yeah.
and I think it's a little bit different now with self tapes, because you're not walking into a room and seeing all the people
Yeah.
that you're up against. Because if you start hating on them and like, oh, I can't believe, so and so booked again,
Signed up. Yeah.
you're never going to be in the right headspace. You've got to encourage everybody. Everybody is your friend. Um, Even if you look the same to casting,
Mhm.
you bring a different flavor than
Yeah.
everybody. You're unique, and you just have to lean into that. And it's going to start hitting. It's going to start, you're going to start booking, and then you're going to start booking the room. So not necessarily
Mhm.
the roles, but you're going to start booking the rooms. And then you're going to start getting more casting directors, more producers, more directors who are familiar with your work, and they're going to start rooting for you.
Yeah. That's a great tip.
Yeah.
Great tip. You're deeply committed to personal development. Can you share some practice or philosophies that have been pivotal in your journey?
Yeah, well, I mean, gratitude is one thing. I talked about the daily affirmations for actors, really, really understanding your why. And I know that we've probably heard this a bunch of times from, all these different gurus and people in personal development, but I think there's a reason why, because it is so powerful. Figuring out, and it could just be, figuring out why is it that you want to become an actor? What
Yeah.
kind of actor do you want to be, right? And it can be just because it's fun, because it's something I've always wanted to do since I was a child. Um, you don't want it to be just, oh, well, I want to be in Hollywood, and I want to make lots of money and be famous.
Yeah.
It can be initially, and I think some of us think that way initially, but I think if we actually dig a little bit deeper, it it you will unveil
Hmm.
a different why if you
Yeah.
just keep digging a little deeper. And I think when you get that awareness is when your work starts showing up differently.
Yeah.
Right? You're not trying to go out there and please. You're not trying to go out there and just book something because you're desperate for the money. Or you're not trying to just book something because you want to prove to,
Yeah.
your Instagram followers that you can book something, right?
Yeah.
You've got to have a different reason. Um, and and yeah, like some of the practices, like personal development practices, one of the things that I think is most important for an actor is to be self-aware. So I think, again, with self tapes, it's actually been a really big blessing in that way, because you're forced to watch yourself and to
Yeah.
make decisions about yourself.
Yeah.
And not to say that sometimes we all need a little help, and that's where your agent can help, or getting coaching can help. Um, but watching it and figuring out, do I have tics? Do I have, like, am I blinking a lot? Like, that was something I discovered about myself. I blink. I don't know if
Yeah.
it's the lights or what, but like some of these self tapes, I'm like, do I talk like this normally? Or some of the things that, from my theater world, or me just being animated, right? I've been using my hands a ton
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
that's how I normally speak, but realizing that you need to keep that out of your frame. Why is it that you're moving your hands a lot? Figure it out, put it out of frame, and continuing on with that. And even if you are going to go into live audition, or because some of that is happening again, or even if you're going to go into a Zoom audition, for you to practice beforehand, right? We have all this easy equipment now. Everybody's got a smartphone. Put yourself on tape. Do a practice run before you go into that Zoom room so that you know, oh, you know what? I kept putting my eye line here, but that's too far. I need to move it. Or, I keep doing this thing because I think in my mind it looks like I'm hanging clothes, but really it makes no sense, right? In the frame, right? Because, for whatever reason, you have the opportunity to play with all of that before you submit that tape, before you go into that live room or into a live audition or a live Zoom audition. So use the tools that you've been given so you understand how your body works, how you have tics, how you can avoid them, how they look on screen. So because there's nothing wrong with you. It's just, how does it play on screen?
Yeah. No, great tips. Great tips. You've appeared in projects like Blackberry, Most Dangerous Game, and Paging Mr. Darcy. Which role challenged you the most, and what did you learn from it?
All of those roles, I mean, Paging Mr. Darcy was one of the roles where I was on set the most. I was on set, and one of the most challenging things on that set was there was a big dance scene at the end. And you asked me about what's easier, early mornings or late nights, and that was one of the late nights. And the thing with the late nights is you don't know when it's going to end. So that's what makes it difficult, because in early morning, you know when your call time is, and at least you can schedule that. But with the late night, and it keeps going on and on, it gets a little touch and go. So there was a huge dance scene, and we had to choreograph. There were a lot of background people. There were specialty background that were the dancers, and then there were the main, the leads that were dancing. So that was challenging. I happened to be one of the people that were right beside the lead, so I was in, not total focus, but I was around. So I had to really. We were up late. I mean, I think we wrapped around 5:30 in the morning.
Wow.
We had to be, functional enough to do the dance moves while, doing the lines and being a part of the ensemble, right? Without taking over too much, right? Not drawing attention because it's the lead, so all of those things. But a really important, but on Blackberry and Most Dangerous Game. So Most Dangerous Game was a really memorable experience for me because I got to work with Christoph Waltz. I actually got to work with Anna Gunn as well from Breaking Bad, but Christoph Waltz, I was on set with him for 2 days. And one of the scenes I was actually with him. And it was really amazing watching him work. And I learned a lot from that experience just watching him. So, I mean, I didn't have a lot of lines, but he did. And, he basically had like a 3-page monologue.
Yeah.
And understanding that it's not stage, it's not live. He didn't get a lot of rehearsal time. And even 2-time Oscar award winners mess up their lines sometimes.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And it's okay. But how to recover from that.
Yeah.
That was a great lesson for me because that was fairly early on in my career as well with TV film. And I think, and you're always told like, oh, if you mess up, like, don't apologize, just keep going or, do another take. But watching him work, watching it live, it's one thing to be told that like in a class, and it's another thing to see it live and how it works on set. So that was a really great lesson for me. And on Blackberry, a lesson for me was I was in the movie. I did my scenes. We did the turnaround. I got notes, they did my nails. They did like everything, thoughtful, wardrobe, all the works. And then we go to the screening. I'm invited to the special screening. I have my husband with me. We're so excited. I start hearing my voice. I'm like, okay, this is my scene. I get my phone out. I'm ready to record. They never showed me.
Oh no.
You heard my voice. I was still in the scene, but they never
Uncredited.
turned the
Yeah.
camera. They never did the edit where I was the one on camera. So,
Wow.
I mean, that was a lesson for me too. And I had heard this before, right? So a lot of actors might be discouraged by that, but because I had heard so many seasoned actors tell me, oh, don't tell anybody you're in something until you've watched the edit. And I'd heard
Yeah.
this so many times. And I felt like in that moment, like, yes, in that very moment, I was like, oh God. And my husband was like, sorry, honey. But really, I was like, you know what? I've like arrived. Like, this is a milestone moment that I get to give firsthand experience. Hey, don't tell anybody you're in a movie until you watch the edit.
Wow.
So yeah, I mean, that was a learning moment for me, but I felt like, you know what? It's official.
Yeah.
I've been in the business long enough that this has happened to me.
Wow. Wow. Streams flow from a river made waves in the festival circuit. Yeah. So what drew you to that project, and what impact did you hope it would have had on audiences?
Um, I kind of talked about it briefly earlier, but
Yeah.
just this world that I don't think a lot of people suspect from like a Chinese family, right? That sort of experience of, it talks about, these two young adults that have moved all the way across the world
Yeah.
to pursue their life, their career, and things just not quite working out the way that they thought it would.
Mm-hmm.
And that sort of pain, and how that trickles down to your children that are now born and raised in this new world, and the pressure on the kids to sort of bridge the gap between the two, right? So a lot of immigrant children, like the first generation, they become interpreters for their parents. They have to shoulder the pressure of being, good Chinese, or, good Chinese kids that respect their parents and all this stuff. But at the same time, work with this Western ideology and trying to figure out how that works.
Mm-hmm.
I think the project was it really resonated with a lot of audiences. And I think that's why, it had such a great run in the festivals. And we went to Cannes, which was an amazing experience for me. And I was able to experience the other wonderful works that were there as well. And I'm just so happy and proud of Christopher Yip. Like I don't, being proud of someone, it always seems a little like condescending, but I'm just like, I'm so proud of the project and of the places that it went. And it was just like this little indie project. And, you really didn't know, like when you get that breakdown, and it was like a little independent project, right? So it didn't pay full scale. It didn't have like anything flashy to it. They were not big episodes, right? There were I think 6 episodes. So it wasn't like a huge project. But when I was lucky enough that I got to read the script, because I did read for the role of the lead as well. So I got a taste of what that was like. And then when they had me read for the role, the young Diana role, I really was able to see, that journey that she had. And I was so inspired by it. And Christopher Yip is just, he's a wonderful director. and he was so caring, and you can just tell that he cared so much, not only for his work, right? I mean, this is a
Yeah.
great body of work, but for his actors. And he actually reached out to me on Instagram to make sure that I had an opportunity to read, which was really nice. That was one of the first times that's ever happened to me, where a director like sought me out personally to read for him. And that was really amazing. And of course, Stay Pictures, they did a phenomenal job at promoting and producing the film. And I'm just so proud to be a part of that project. Yeah, and I'm so happy that it had all the nominations that it did for the CSAs, and that Chris, that he won. So excited for him.
That's amazing. We're going to talk about the self-tape. You mentioned it a little bit before. You created over 300 self-tapes in recent years. What are your top tips for actors to make their self-tapes stand out?
So one of the easiest things is just do a take, right? Stop just planning. I think we can get really caught up in script analysis and doing the planning and what should I wear, and how should I say these lines, and I gotta memorize. Like, first of all, you're not booking because you've got the best memorization skills, right? I think we get really caught up on like memorizing the lines, but I really think that if you understand the story, and that's so much what it is, if you understand the story that's in the sides that you receive, the lines are going to come, because even if it's not exact, you understand what's coming next. Why are you saying the words that you're saying? What is it supposed to mean? So even if it's not exact, you get the gist of it, and it moves the scene along as it's supposed to. That's all you need. And then don't spend so much time doing it. Do it in front of the camera, like, right? Do it in front of your iPhone, right? That way and then watch it, right? So many of us are like, oh my God, I can't watch myself. You're gonna have to. Right? Like, if you can't watch yourself, and this is a quote from like Samuel L. Jackson. He's like, if you can't watch yourself, like, how can you expect
other people to watch
you, right? Like, it makes sense. It's like you need to be able to take a step back and objectively watch yourself as the artist, as the crafts person, and be like, okay, you know what? And not worry about, oh, was my hair out of place? How did I look? And worry about these little things. It's like, how are you serving the scene with how you're playing it out? And you're not going to really be able to see that until you put it, you lay it down, watch yourself, and then say, okay, here are the things that I didn't like. Why didn't I like them? How can I do it better? Right? So you're not just doing a gazillion takes because you're just like, oh, no, I didn't like the way I said that one word. Let's just do it again. Let's just do it again. Because next thing you know, you're going to have 50 takes, which isn't realistic, right? Because even if you finally book it after that 50th take, you're not going to get 50 takes on the day of.
That's true.
Right? Or if they ask you to come in for a callback, they're not going to give you 50 takes to get it right. You're going to have to do it in one, or if, maybe two, right? So you have to be able to critically watch your tape, analyze it in such a way where you're just, okay, you know what? I didn't, and it's not just like, ooh, I didn't like how I said the line. Why? Did you not show enough emotion? Did you not understand the beat? And sometimes, again, going back to the fumbling of the lines, sometimes you forget the line, or you're fumbling a line because you don't understand what it means. Why is the character saying this line? And sometimes it's a little bit cryptic, right? Because the writer knows what they mean. And it's your job to sort of figure it out. But sometimes you're just like, I don't know why they say that. You need to find a reason why. And sometimes it's just, as human beings, our thought patterns transition all the time. You're just going to have to make sense of it so that it comes out naturally. And sometimes that's the reason why you're not remembering the line, because you don't understand it. So understand the story first. Trust that the lines will come. Lay down a first take, watch it back, and see where you could improve. Because if you've done all of those things, you might watch it and be like, you know what, that first take was great.
Yeah. Great tip.
Yeah.
Great tip. Excellent. Our final segment is reflections and aspirations. How do you balance your roles as an actor, coach, and mother? And what lessons from your personal life do you bring into your professional world?
I think some of the things that I tell my students and my clients is that don't try to fit yourself into someone else's box. You need to understand yourself as an actor, what essence you have, and lean into it, right? And it's not about pigeonholing yourself, right? Like a lot of actors, they're like, oh, I'm an actor, I can do anything. But, if that was the case, why don't we just hire Meryl Streep for everything? Right? Like, I mean, even Meryl Streep doesn't book every single thing. And of course, now I get it's a little bit different, but for every Meryl Streep, there's a Susan Sarandon. There's another fantastic actor who would be in the same casting call, but for some reason or another, they go one way or the other. And it is because you have just a different flavor, a different take on the character. So that's one thing that is important, to lean into that. So for instance, for me, I am a mother, and although that's not the only thing that I am, it is a big part of me. And so I'm not gonna now try like, oh no, I don't want, I'm a mother in my day life, I don't want to play a mother. And it's like, well, fine, you don't have to. It's not about being a mother, but it's what is a mother, what is the essence of a mother? Like, what is it? It's the nurturing, it's the caring, it's the empathy, the compassion. And that translates a lot of the times to, I play a lot of like nurses. Some of doctor roles, right? Because that's all in the same sort of world.
That's
and
true.
When you understand that, you can, when you get a role, right? Like anytime I see a doctor role, I'm like, okay, like I know what I'm gonna do, right? Because that's the kind of, and it's the kind of doctor that I would be, right? It's not like I'm trying to go in there and I'm trying to be some, whatever tough ass doctor or whatever. And even like sometimes, on the rare occasion, I'll get like a sheriff or like a cop. But even then, they're usually for like children's movies, like children's shows, right? Because it's a gentler, again, if I try to be like a tough cop, it's just not, it's not going to read well, because that's not how I am. Right. And even, and I could very well be a cop in real life, but I would still be Jinny as the cop. So rather than trying to portray, sort of a version of a cop, like you have to play yourself as this occupation or this type of character, and you have to find yourself inside of it. And balancing that with your real life is just, sometimes when you get an audition, you have to make sure that it aligns with how you see yourself, what projects you want to say yes to, right? Because sometimes you're going to get something and you're just like, I don't know, like, sometimes you got to be a little bit more picky because you have a family that you're taking time away from them to potentially do this project, to even just do the audition, right? Auditioning isn't easy. It takes time. So you're taking time away from your family to audition. Like, is it worth it? Does it align with your values? Does it light you up? Does it make you excited for the project? Because if it doesn't, you could probably skip it. And some of the other things, I just started a podcast with two other actors, actor friends of mine, Monica and Italina, and the podcast is called Hitting Her Mark. And the reason why I created that alongside with them is because we want to talk about balancing all of these things that we do, especially for women. Women, I think, feel a lot more of that pressure because a lot of the times we are the primary caregivers of our children. And even if it's not children, perhaps we have, aging parents, elderly parents you
Yeah.
have to take care of. A lot of the times, especially for artists, you can't just be a full-time artist. You've got that
Mm.
side hustle or you've got that full-time job and you're trying to make it all work. And sometimes we feel pulled in so many directions. And because we love our job, because we love acting, because we love creating and being creative, sometimes we feel like that's just for fun and that
Mm.
gets pushed aside as a hobby. And it's not, it's a passion.
Yeah.
And the more you try to push it down, the less happy you're going to be. So that was another reason. That's another project that we're working on because I think the more we talk about it, and you just feel seen, you feel heard, you feel like, oh my God, I get it. She's, another mom is talking about this, or this other woman is talking about how she's struggling, but how she overcame it, or how eventually it gets better, or,
Yeah.
and you're getting not only tips, but you're being inspired to you can how you can navigate this artistic life
Mhm.
as along your journey.
Yeah. Other than the podcast, are there any upcoming projects you're excited about that you can talk about?
Yes, well, adulthood, that is going to be coming out. It's either this year or next year. I haven't heard the full release date yet, but that's adulthood, and that is a movie, and that is directed by Alex Winter, who you might know as Bill from Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he has done, I mean, he's directed and he's done a bunch of different things. He was actually just on Broadway with Keanu on Waiting for Godot. So that's going to be coming out sometime this year or early next year. I
Mhm.
just finished shooting on the set of Finding Her Edge, and that
Yeah.
is going to be on Family Channel and then Netflix, and that will be airing in January
Hmm.
of next year.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah.
Um, and we talked about tips and stuff but any final tips for the Canadian folks here?
Specific to Canadian actors, I think one of the things that we overlook is a general American accent.
Hmm.
I think, and I know that, so I worked with Americans, and I know that I don't say, or I don't think that I say a boot, right? Like I know I don't say a boot or
Yeah.
oot, but after working with a lot of Americans and you're in that world for a while, and then like a new Canadian,
Yeah.
so when I was on the cruise ship, I worked with a lot of Americans and other people from different countries. So like you kind of get sort of like an ear for accents, but then like a new Canadian would come in, and then I'd be like, oh my God, I can hear it. And it's not so much like a boot, but it's like out, right? Like
Yeah.
about, right? It's that sort of like over enunciation. And they can hear it. And, especially when you're doing stuff for Hallmark
Hmm.
or Lifetime, these where it's geared towards these American audiences, it becomes
Yeah.
very obvious to them. So just
Yeah.
watching out for that, and not being discouraged. Sometimes, especially right now, they're talking about all the tariffs and stuff um, coming down the pipes. Don't be discouraged because we have a really strong Canadian um, film making world here, and I think sometimes doesn't seem that way. And we're always talking about, being Hollywood North, and, we're waiting for these American productions to come up north to shoot. But there are a lot of organic Canadian productions that are happening,
Mhm.
and watch out for it. And then, apply for the grants. If
Mhm.
collaborate with other people and make your own stuff, because they're available to us.
That's great. Um, how can our audience contact you, Jinny?
I can be found. I've got two Instagram. One is Jinny Wong on set, and that is mainly for my acting. And actors who book, that is my other Instagram for coaching.
That's great. And final question, in one word, how would you describe your journey so far?
Dynamic. Lots of ups and downs, lots of changes, lots of, yeah, it's been dynamic.
That's great, Jinny. We're nearing the end of the show. That's all, folks. Thank you for watching. Jinny Wong, everyone. Thank you, Jinny.
Thank you so much. Have a great one.
Thank you.